Hi everyone, welcome to the first of 4 short sessions, hopefully, of generic mental information for this academic year here at Sussex University. Quick introduction, my name is Branagh. For those of you that were with us last year, you saw that we started doing these videos to detach the more information sort of admin side of our course from the really good stuff which happens in subject groups. So I'm the one that gets the job of talking about forms and things that have changed and all that, so that our tutors don't have to. I'm the mentoring lead here at ITE Sussex. I'm also the lead science tutor, so some of you might know me with different hats on. And there's my email if you ever have any queries, but mostly it's your own curriculum tutor that you'll want to talk to. So this session is aimed at all mentors, be you new or experienced, and particularly important this year because there's quite a lot of changes that I have to discuss with you about how we've embedded the core content framework into our curriculums. It was fine. We were already doing entitlement and way beyond, so it's all okay. It's all done. We are into now our 3rd academic year that's been disrupted by the global pandemic. And for those of you who were with us last year, it wasn't easy, was it? It was quite a challenge to get through last year and get the trainees through, but we did survive last year. The trainees got jobs. They trained incredibly well. You did an unbelievable job getting them through the year. I thought they were brilliant last year. I thought we've just made the most resilient bunch of teachers ever. But it's still not normal. Every single one of you will have different rules that we'll have to get our heads around. And it's another year of getting the trainees not to compare and say, well, at that school, they do this, at this school, we do that. Not interested. They're in that school. Get on and do what the school does. We are still incredibly grateful that you choose to work with us at Sussex. You are the bedrock of our course. We can't do anything without our mentors. You're the most important people in our partnership. The trainees seem very keen, the ones that I've seen, which is lovely. We've got less unknowns. It feels a bit more normal here on campus. I hope it feels a bit more normal for you at school. So, as I've said, this is to detach the subject-specific good stuff about, you know, what happens in your subject and scholarship and people talking to each other and real work from the admin. Really, I'm the admin queen. It's generic for all mentors. Now, if you've got a salaried trainee or a part-time trainee, you will have to go elsewhere and find out more. All right, so get in touch with the relevant people for that and read the guidebook for the extra notes. Obviously, we still have the guidebook. I'll show you that in a sec. So we're continuing to teach in a pandemic. We're going to try as much as possible to carry on as we were before. We still want them to teach 8 hours a week before Christmas. We're still continuing to teach face-to-face. It's been really nice, being on campus teaching. It's been lovely. We will be observing the trainees in person. If the schools are open and you'll have us, we'll be in there, okay? We got through last year with the remote observations, but we'd far rather be in the classroom watching the pupils and our teachers. Each trainee has their own dedicated tutor, for those of you that are reasonably new to Sussex, and that's what makes us really special. So, is that every single trainee has somebody to go to, and you importantly have a contact at the university. You don't have to go through an admin portal. You'll have the email of the tutor that you need to speak to. And that's really important during the pandemic because things are going to happen quickly, aren't they? We're not going to get warning. Stuff's going to happen to us. Every lesson in these kind of times matters. They matter all the time anyway, but just in case things get locked down, I hate saying it, let's make sure we start getting lots of stuff for our trainees. All right, so the purpose of this session, I'm going to whiz through this really quickly. I'm going to talk about what our focus is for the year. Just like schools, we have an action plan, and mentors feature heavily in our action plan this year. I'll let you know what we've kept the same. It's quite a short list, actually, that one, sadly. I'll let you know what we changed. It's quite a long list. I'll run you through the year structure, a couple of bits that have changed there about deadlines. Quick look at the guidebook and the forms, but very quick. Very quick. I'm only showing you them really because they've changed. We will, as usual, because it's the first session like this of the year, just quick whiz through how to settle them in, get them teaching, and that first form, because the first form's a bit different. So what's the same as last year? The assignment's the same. thank God. So APK is the same, RPK is the same. We've got a lot of the same lead tutors. I'll tell you the new ones in a sec. Claire Stevens, thankfully, is still doing her amazing work in partnership. She's your contact for payments and admin stuff like that. Structure of the year is the same. Still got our brilliant 4 days of school, 1 day back at uni. Now, the mentor meetings will be the same as last year during the pandemic. We sent out some questionnaires to you and you asked for them to stay remote. So that's what we're doing. And I understand why. You know, if I lived up in Redhill, I wouldn't want to be traveling down to campus on a dark November night, having taught all day. So we're going to keep them via Zoom. Maybe towards the end of the year, groups can meet personally, but for now, we're keeping them via Zoom. And the same as last year, we're going to continue to be as flexible and respond to any COVID things as they come in. We did it last year, we did it the year before, we'll do it this year, okay? We'll get those trainees through. Now, what's new? Claire Stenning has gone from head of secondary to being in charge of the whole of secondary at strategic level. Karen Hall, that you might have known as Karen Sturgis, but Karen Hall, our lead drama tutor, is at operational level. So any sort of day-to-day bits and bobs, they go to Karen. We've got a new partnership lead with Keith Pereira, which is grand. New partnership lead new part-time lead is Irene Dalloway Gonzalez, who's our maths tutor normally. So brilliant there. We've got some new tutors, Cavan in RE, Alison in psychology, supporting Jazz. Cavan is just covering for Claire on maternity. Computer science, new cohort, not Cosmos anymore in their own. So big welcome to Michelle and Rumi. Classics, Lottie's leading on classics, and we've got a new science tutor to help myself and Pat with Susie. Yay, it's great. 3 in the team. CCF mapping, core content framework. Okay. I'm going to be talking quite a bit about that. Apologies to our new mentors that have had it explained in the new mentor training. You can just skip when I get to that bit, okay? We're all mapped, fully compliant, everything ready to go. But it's meant we've had to change some of our documentation, so I'll talk to you about that. So different forms, slightly different assignment dates, and we're looking for more mentor input. More on that to come. I'm not going to talk about the action plan. It's there for you. I've put that triangle on, so I'm not going to really talk through those slides. Just go back and have a look if you want to see it in more detail, or pause. Because you're interested really in what it means for you as a mentor. Now, our real focus is mentors using questions, and we've made some documentation to help you with that. So it's to avoid just go, well, what did you think? Or how do you think that lesson went? With these they're questions, but they're very general. We've got pointed, specific, very useful questions for mentors to use in their feedback sessions, in the mentor meetings, to get the trainee to come up with the answers rather than being too reliant on you just to tell them what to do. Okay, so that's new for this year. Another action point is to embed the language of the CCF. It's very specific language. It's not something we haven't, all the stuff that's in the CCF, we know. We've been doing it for forever, okay? But it's about making sure that we've mapped it to everything we do, so it's super clear that our trainees have genuinely got their entitlement, and that language is important. This is new, so no summative assessment through the year. So we're no longer grading the trainees through the year. It's either they pass with the teacher standards or they don't pass the teacher standards. And we're looking at them formatively against the teacher standards through the year. And then summatively at the end at the PPPE stage. And we would really like you to get more involved in our sessions and I'd like some little talking head videos, 5-minute slots, 10-minute slots. And your tutors will be getting in touch with those of you and if there's something you want to volunteer to do, please talk to your tutor. So we'd like to hear a lot more from you and a lot less of us. I'd certainly like that. Okay, so I'm sure you'd like it listening to me. Right, so CCF, let's get straight into this. How do we use this? Now I'm just going to show you, I think the best way to describe it is to show you how we've used it to build our curriculum. Now, new mentors, you've had this, you can skip ahead unless I made absolutely no sense, in which case, let's try again, shall we? So, core content framework. Government comes along, says, right, we've got to unify all these different teacher training providers. Okay, so fragment it and then realize you need to unify it, basically. And there's a core curriculum that every single trainee has an entitlement to. Really important word, entitlement. We have to give it to them. Can't say no, can't say, no, we just don't do that in our school. They have to have it. So it's divided into 5 core areas. Now, within it are obviously the teacher standards. So this curriculum has to allow the trainees to meet the teacher standards at the end. So it's all based on the teacher standards, but they've grouped the standards together into 5 core areas. So we've got behavior. It's one of the ones that we'll be focusing on first when they come into school, linking to standards 1 to set 1 and 7. Pedagogy, standards 2, 4, and 5. Curriculum, our subject knowledge, standard 3. Assessment links directly to standard 6. And then the professional behaviours links to standard 8 and the part 2 bit of the teacher standards. Now, it's broken down into learn that statement, so knowledge building, and then learn how to, which is apply that knowledge in school and in the classroom. So we're very much at the learn that. I mean, so are you in school. They're learning an awful lot in school, of course they are, but it's quite difficult for us to do the how to. We can model it, we can do mini teaches, we can do a lot of that, but really the learn how to is what's happening in school. So that's where you guys come in. Now, how we used it, so we look at the CCF and go, right, yeah, I get all of that. We've got these learn how to's. You've got to apply that into school. We get all of that. We get the national curriculum. We look at those. We realize what else is needed to teach our subject, because the CCF is the minimum entitlement. Now, the minimum wouldn't necessarily produce outstanding teachers. So our curriculum maps, our curriculum plans that will be shared with you, this wheel thing will be on all of them. This curriculum wheel brings, all of it together, and it's all mapped out for each subject. So you don't need to go look necessarily at the CCF yourself. It's all in our curriculum map. And if they follow our curriculum and they do all the statements, all the things that they need to in school, they will be able to meet the teacher standards at the end. Now, we've obviously got to look at them against the teacher standards all the way through the year. It's not just we pluck out the teacher standards at the end and go, oh, you didn't do that, did you? Yeah, it's all mapped against the standards, but not assessed against the CCF. We're assessing against the teacher standards. The CCF is part of the minimum entitlement. And scholarship playing a huge part, obviously, in our curriculum mapping, weaving that subject-specific scholarship all the way through. And that's something we want to share much more with mentors this year. Now, obviously, that's a lot to get on board. So we've made some documents to help us. Now, the 2 key ones for mentors are the learning progression framework. Now, I'm going to just zip ahead a sec and show you this. This is what one page looks like. Now, what we've done is we've thought of a huge amount of questions, right? So Claire and Liz went away, did a huge amount of work coming up with these questions. And we've put them into sections where these is kind of like first stage appropriate, second stage appropriate, and so on. And these are the questions that we want you to use in your mentor meetings every week. You might use them daily sometimes with a trainee and go, right, I'm going to pluck out a question and ask you one. And we definitely need them at the end of lesson observations when we're doing the feedback, okay? Now, the other bit in that document are examples of what evidence might look like for that standard and linked to the CCF as well. Okay, so that links to our action plan of focusing on questioning. So action plan, focusing on questioning, learning progression framework, all of it mapped against the CCF, leading us towards meeting the teacher standards. Now, the other document for you is this learning progression framework, but the assessment version. And in there are these super duper statements that are taken almost directly, reworded slightly, for the CCF, so that they're sort of just more sort of easy speak, but it's exactly the right language that we're looking for. So taken directly from the CCF and just modified ever so slightly for the flow. Now look at those keywords: observing, discuss. They keep going on about experienced colleagues and expert colleagues. That's you, yeah? You're the expert, you're the experienced. So a lot of it is about you. They're discussions with you, okay? And then there's this, obviously they need to mention professional behavior an awful lot. So when it comes to looking at their progression at the strategic assessment points, PPPA, B, C, D, we're going to look at it at E as well, but it's slightly different for that one. We look at the learning progression framework for assessment. We see where they are and we go, yeah, you're all right. You're meeting that minimum. We'll move on. Okay. And then the trainees complete the professional practice record, which I'll show you in more detail later on in the presentation. I hope that's clear. If not, check with your subject tutor, but it should be, I hope. Okay, so moving on from our curriculum, training year. So that's all that's different, right? That's lots of different stuff, and I'll show you the forms in a sec. Training year, pretty much exactly the same. To those of you that have been with us a while, 3-week induction, they come to you on the 27th. We want them teaching one lesson before half term. Now, look what's slightly different. PPPAs are coming to us after half term, but that's because the professional tutors requested that. As a mentor, you still got to get them completed before half term. And this is because the professional tutors are dealing with all the ECT stuff, the early career framework and that stuff. So they just need a bit more time. So you'll notice PPPA, slightly later than usual, PPPB after Christmas. But again, you'll do it before. It's professional tutor, and the same for the C. D, the one before Easter, same. And E at the end is the same, okay? We've also got a slightly later APK. Normally it's due in the first week after half term. It's now due in the second week after half term. But apart from that, look at that every Friday at uni, support plan, deadlines where you'd imagine them being. Here's the RPK, and there's enrichment week. So nothing new there really, apart from that bit. Okay, same for school direct training and salaried. You've got your block in the middle. Deadlines are all the same. Guidebook, almost, it's very similar. It's just been updated to reflect the CCF. And there is a new section, much more beefed out section for what to do in each mentor meeting. So right at the end, in the appendices, there's a list of each mentor meeting through the year. You're going to deviate from it, but if you wanted to make sure that your mentor meetings don't get sidetracked by the trainee talking about their own agenda, that's a way to drag it back to what you want to talk about and their development. All the ITE handbooks are where you'd expect them to be. There's our link to our partnership page. I think psychology one looks amazing. So cool. So these are our handbooks. You know you need to read those and familiarize yourself with each subject and how they teach it. Okay, so getting them settled, as usual at this time of year, they start their placement on the 27th of September. Now, what we'd like them to do is get in touch with you, and I'm doing a session for them about settling into school, and I'll give them a series of questions that they can use. We want you to be in a Zoom with them the week of the 20th of September. So you're watching this the week of the 13th of September. The week of the 20th, you'll have your subject-specific mentor meetings, and that week, the week before they come into school, we'd like you to meet with them. And for those of you that are experienced, you know that they have what we would consider to be some really quite basic sort of questions, but to them they mean a lot. You know, where do I park? What do I need to wear? Especially the what to wear. Be super clear to them. You know, don't go, oh yeah, well, wear what you want. It doesn't help them. Tell them exactly what to wear. It will help them enormously. And if they get antsy about that, then let us know. Something new this year are pen portraits. Now we're desperate to make sure that we're the most inclusive course ever. Everybody should be able to get through a teacher training year with the right kind of support. I mean, everybody that we take on, rather, worded that a bit badly, but you know what I mean? They've got on the course, they've got the right subject knowledge, we believe they've got the right skills. They shouldn't fall down because we don't support them properly for whatever additional needs that they've got, okay? Now, as you know, those of you that are with us as well, sometimes they don't tell us till Christmas or Easter, and you're like, well, it's too late now. The course is done, right? And now you're going to tell me that you needed this special arrangement. So we're getting them to fill in pen portraits so we know a lot more about them and how they know how to deal with their issues and the strategies that they have. So that's coming out to you too. Okay, managing induction, it's all in the guidebook, so you know what to do. For those of you that have been with us for a while, they're very nervous. They need to see as much of their mentor as possible. They need to have key things. They will have a checklist, and there's a checklist for you in the handbook as well. Things like keys and stuff really matter. Timetable, let's think about it in terms of the pandemic. You're very unlikely to give them year 11. You're extremely unlikely to give them year 13. But remember, they do have to have 2 key stages. They have to teach across 2 key stages. So you can't say, oh, you're just not going to get any GCSE classes. They have to get GCSE classes. And that doesn't mean year 9. Year 9 doing an early GCSE is not doing key stage 4. Has to be year 10 or year 11 for key stage 4. They also have to have key stage 3. Okay, so they have to have a balanced timetable. Now, something that's come up quite a bit, and it's unfortunate, is that the trainees stop observing. That they're given in science, we give them a focus every week that links to our curriculum study sessions. They're not to stop observing. It's in the entitlement of the CCF as well. Now, they have to take responsibility for the CCF just like we do. So they have to observe experienced colleagues, but it's for us to make sure they have the opportunity to do that. Now, that's definitely our role, and your role is, here's the opportunity. This is what your lesson was like. We've done the feedback. I'm now telling you to go and observe that person with this focus, right? And making sure that they do it. Don't let them stop observing. It's incredibly important. They've got to do it. They still need to be part of a form group, remember, and School Direct Salaried, please do make sure that you look at the different timetable arrangements for your trainees. Mentor meetings, it's the same as they were before. Like I said, you've got a little bit more guidance maybe and a bit more structure in the guidebook for you, taking you through week by week. They've been matched to the CCF. The tracker that the trainees fill in is a lot bigger than it has been before. In fact, significantly larger. And we've added some really cool bits in where they're focusing on curriculum each week. So that's new, but the record of the mentor meeting is not new. Now, we monitor this. And what we really would like to see is that there's flavor in your mentor meetings, that it's not the same thing every week. Your mentor meeting with your trainee is not just about, oh yeah, this is what you're teaching next week, that's how you did in that last lesson. They need to be much more developmental. And again, if you're not sure what topic to do, what to talk about, look in the guidebook, in the appendices for what your topic could be, and use the learning progression framework. Okay, use that super document with all these questions. Be driven by questions in these meetings. Just keep asking questions and expect them to answer it. Okay, they'll get independent much quicker if we do that. So there's just another example of from standard 8. So linked to that bit about professional behavior in the CCF. Use these questions. You know, do you seek feedback and critique from mentors and other colleagues? The prompts. Are you aware of other colleagues in the school that can support you? They're constantly coming to you with stuff. That's a good question. And if they're not, they need to go and find out. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Sorry. So how to get them teaching? Those of you that are old hands know this before. We start small and we build it up. Okay. Build it up slowly. Don't, even if they're super keen, I say this every year, even if they're super keen, don't let them run. They go splat. Because if they start with 3 lessons before half term, two weeks after half term, they're on 8, and they've got to sustain 8 for longer. And then they're exhausted. The teaching goes to pot. They compare themselves to others, and it's poof, everything goes wrong. Okay. Nice and slow. Get it done right, not quickly and wrong. Okay. Again, look at the handbook for more on that. Said that before, 1 lesson before half term, be positive in the feedback, and let us know if there's a problem. Now, this is where things have started to change a little bit. So the PPPA, I've explained the change in deadline. You still be doing it before half term. It won't make that much difference to you, but just so you know, the professional tutors will be getting it to us on the 1st of November. The document looks a bit different. We've brought all the PPP forms together into one place, and what would Sussex be without an acronym? So it's Professional Practice Record. So Secondary Professional Practice Record. And we use, it's got almost exactly the same wording as the learning progression framework for assessment. But this is the trainees document, this Apple and T one. As usual, your observations are incredibly important. We're all, aware that we're hoping that school will be open every single day, but what if it's not over the next period of time? So don't miss an observation, because it might be weeks until you can do another one if they lock us down again. I hate saying that. I hope that doesn't happen. Specific and focused, as always. Our new lesson observation form, it almost looks exactly the same, but obviously we've put the CCF in there, and make a focus of the CCF in your feedback as much as possible. And there'll be more on observations and stuff when we get to that second generic training in November. Excuse me. Okay, so filling in the PPBA, slightly different. Okay, now, as we know, A is the first one. By the time you fill this in, they won't have taught. So this is focused very much on that, their entitlement in the CCF for professional behavior. Okay, so their professional behavior and probably pupil behavior. So we're looking at those two areas of the CCF. It looks almost exactly the same as the PPs that you're used to, except we've got the phases above here. So the finding out, trying out, consolidating, moving on, and then meeting the standards at the end. Okay, now 3 boxes. Passes, we like that one. Yeah, they're going to need a bit more help. They're not quite getting on board with everything. Do let us know in advance. Let's not see that as a surprise. It's always better if you've contacted us before. And then fails. Now, if they failed, they would need to they need to go on a support plan. You need to have contacted the tutor. These boxes shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. So make sure, good heads up to us if there's something going a bit awry. This bit looks different. Now, before this was done just on their tracker, they should have shown you these parts where they're gathering their evidence and proving that they are working towards meeting the teacher standards. Now, this has been formalized where now they've got these little dudes here. They're discussing their progress. They'll write down their evidence, make them be specific. If it just says lesson plans, well, which ones? Did all of them meet that standard? Doubtful at the beginning, right? So specific with the evidence, they'll need to discuss the elements of the CCF and then their targets. Okay, and it might be that their targets are also linked to their entitlement with the CCF. So it's like, I need to observe more colleagues. They need to be I statements, really, I suppose. So that's how they're filling in. Please don't fill in the PPPA, your bit, until you've seen this. It could be that they've written nothing in there and you've signed them off as being brilliant and they've collected no evidence. The final part of it is slightly different. So this bit, I'm sorry it's so small, insufficient progress in working towards the teacher standards. Again, these shouldn't be shocks, all right? Let us know if there's a problem and they're not moving forward enough. Now, for PPPA, we don't have a lot to go on. So it's likely that they're currently on track based on what you're seeing, okay? Or they just haven't had an opportunity. But the opportunity isn't really their fault. So for this first one, so long as they're like super good eggs and they're doing everything, they're listening, they're reflecting, they've done their starters, they've done some plenaries, that they're moving in the right direction, they should be all right and on track to meet the teacher standards. Then you do your formative feedback. Remember, longer is good. A simple line doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help them to feel wanted. It really needs to be quite long, where you're really telling us that you've got to know your trainee, you know their weaknesses, you know their strengths. And then again, we want them in this form here. Now, we should be able to, just by reading this, know what subject they're in. So at some point, this has to read as a teacher of your subject. So as a science teacher, I want to hear references to them doing practicals, that they've been liaising with the technician, that they get their prep sheets in on time, that they've been doing lots of extra work around their subject knowledge gaps in physics, for example. So please let us be able to see who you are, what subject they are in those boxes, okay? That'd be grand. Now, it's not summative, it's formative, okay? It's all very Black and William. Okay. Now, that's nice and quick, isn't it? All right, brilliant. So the next session is your next session after watching this is your subject specific mental development session. Now, your tutor will be in touch again. Now, I know that it's a bit irritating, and I know we had feedback on this, that you get an email sent from your professional tutor, you get an email sent from the central mentor database, you then get an email from your tutor to tell you when it is. But we do like a belts and braces approach, because if your professional tutor is off, you don't get it from that. If you're you didn't see the mentor email, or you're currently the right mentor and we've got the wrong email address for whatever reason, so apologies that we come at it at this multi-pronged approach, but we want you to be at our meetings. For those of you in very small cohorts, business studies, classics, computer, DT to a certain degree, it's not massive, media, music, psychology, RE, okay? Please do come. I mean, we want all our mentors to come. Science, we want you all to come. MFL, we want you all to come. But when it's a very small cohort, incredibly difficult to build a community of mentors when out of 6 people, only 2 turn up. Okay, so it really matters you coming to these meetings. They're not information giving, they're discussion, they're each mentor talking about their agendas in school, how their trainees are getting on, what's new in your subject, how can we support each other, where have we got expertise, what scholarship is out there at the moment that can boost all of our practice. This is the information giving. Yeah, your subject specific is where the good stuff happens. That's where we want you all turning up and being a part of this awesome thing that is this group of mentors. The more you turn up, the more you'll get out of it. Okay, so they're happening the week of the 20th. Your Zoom session with your trainee will happen that week too. They will get in touch with you. 15th of November, there'll be another generic training where we'll have seen more of the feedback that people are doing and how they're trying to link it to the CCF. So that will be much more about how we're observing with the CCF in mind. We'll be auditing. The trainees are going to track where they're getting their minimum entitlement for the CCF. And that's very much what will feed into that next generic training, how we can boost what we're doing for our trainees. We will be auditing all the mentor meeting notes as well as a subject tutor and seeing if we need to do more about what's happening in those mentor meetings. The subject development one on November the 22nd, we would really start to like to hand over sections of those meetings to you, where you host a section, get colleagues talking about stuff, talk about research you've been doing in school, talk about innovative practice in school. So please get in touch with your subject tutor if you want to talk about something, if you've got something really interesting to discuss. And then the PPPA, as you know, is due on the 1st of November. I've mentioned that before. And then the B is due in January. Okay, I'm going to stop my share and say thank you ever so much for listening to me. I know it's not easy. And I don't know which is the better backdrop, this or my house. This doesn't look very good, but then neither did the back of my house. But thanks ever so much. And I hope to see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.